Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth by Progress Kentucky. We've got a very special episode for you all tonight. First, we're going to do a quick news of the week. We're going to cover, some pushback against our fair governor from the GOP super duper majority. We're going to cover what he's doing, without their support. And then we're also going to talk about a few quick stories. We've got news under 2 minutes, 3 minutes, we'll see. Brought to you by Kimberly Cecil Jones. And then we have got a fantastic guest, Matt Alley, labor writer, good troublemaker, to discuss the labor movement's moment. I'm sure everyone's heard right now we are in the middle of STRIKE-tober. We've got some really impressive efforts to claim worker power and worker compensation. And really excited to hear from him, kind of what's going on the ground and on the picket line. But first, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? We absolutely know our Commonwealth has work to do if we're going to beat back the tide of bad politics and bad policy from Frankfurt, from the efforts to stop teaching history that makes white parents uncomfortable, to blocking our governor from doing, well, anything. We need help to stand effectively against the GOP super duper majority. If you want a Commonwealth that works for all of us, please join Progress Kentucky. We make it very easy. There's not membership dues. It's not like a labor union. All you need to do is, share our content, like our content, maybe join our email list and keep in the know that way. But we'd love to have your support because it's going to take many hands to get done what we want to get done. So let's go ahead and get into the show. As you know, we are a digital demonstration for a more compassionate Commonwealth. It's not, just talking heads on the interwebs. So bring your protest sign. What's your protest sign say today? You can put it in the chat. If we like it, we can share it on the screen so everyone can see it. And my son, who are you? Where are you? And what does your protest sign say today? So I'm Aaron Viles. I'm coming to you from Childsburg, a neighborhood in Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, rather. And my protest sign says today, workers' rights are human rights. And I'm excited to talk about that a little bit more later with our guest. I'll throw it to my friend, Kimberly Cecil Jones.
Hello, Aaron. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us every Wednesday evening. We appreciate it so much, Kimberly.
Well, I'm right here in Louisville, Kentucky, in Jefferson County. And my protest sign says today, we have to do something for the people. That's what mine says today.
I got it.
We have to do something for the people. Talking about Congress.
Oh, yeah. Today's a big day, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe it'll just be another day. We'll see what happens. There's urgency, and then there's maybe just not any urgency. So
right,
it's all a big question mark in DC right now. But I hope they hear your sign, and I hope they do the right thing. Doug, how are you doing this evening, Doug?
I'm doing well tonight, Aaron and Kimberly. I'm coming to you from Cynthiana in Harrison County, the Maiden City. My sign says, I'm going to hold it up, Kentucky Republican leadership sings Frank Sinatra song, Do It My Way.
They do it their way. Yeah. Wait, do we know what the Maiden City, why Cynthiana is the Maiden City?
I knew you were going to ask that, so I looked it up.
Nice.
And
so what's the answer?
I couldn't find why.
You looked without finding. You sought to answer the question. It is an unanswerable question. It's clearly their love of Iron Maiden. I'm sure it's because Iron Maiden music is very popular in Cynthiana at the founding. Hey, so let's move on. Let's cover the stories that you need to know with the Progress Kentucky trademark analysis of what's happening in Kentucky politics. The first story comes to us from Doug.
Yes, I think most people would agree that the most powerful Republican persona in Kentucky, not named Trump, is Senator Mitch McConnell. Recently, the leaders of the Kentucky House and Senate took a measure from Mitch McConnell's playbook, talking out of both sides of their mouth when it works best for them. Soon after, Governor Beshear announced a proposal to award certain workers for their efforts during the pandemic. The Republican leaders ignored the reach out by the governor. This follows the majority party continually complaining when the governor made decisions that needed to be made quickly during the pandemic. They were always complaining that the governor should have consulted them. Governor Beshear floated a plan on October 4th to use $400 million of federal funds next year to give bonuses to frontline essential workers employed throughout 2 full years of the COVID-19 pandemic. The proposal received some tentative support from healthcare groups, along with some initial uncertainty over including bonuses for non-health workers, and wait until next year to implement them instead of a special session this fall. The governor said he would send legislative leaders his recommendations and draft framework for a bonus plan in the next 7 to 10 days, and that would honor the work that these folks have done and to encourage them to continue their employment. Beshear's announcement comes as Republican Senate President Robert Stivers had pushed the governor for weeks to call the Kentucky General Assembly back into a special session to immediately fund recruitment and retention bonuses for hospitals and nursing homes dealing with workforce shortages. However, the governor said his plan could wait to be approved after the legislature returns to Frankfort in January for the 2022 session, and would also fund several other categories of essential workers besides those in the healthcare field. On October 12th, Governor Beshear proposed that legislative leaders select 6 lawmakers, 4 Republicans and 2 Democrats, to join a work group to fill in details of his plan. The legislators would join members of Beshear's administration on the group. They would try to reach consensus on key issues, which professions should be included, and the appropriate number of payments. Throughout each phase of the pandemic, Governor Beshear noted brave Kentuckians showed up every day to perform essential work at the risk of harm to themselves and their families. We look forward to working in collaboration and seeking an approach that provides a positive incentive to all essential workers to continue their employment in the coming months, knowing they are appreciated and there is something to look forward to as we work to defeat this virus. Beshear's letter on essential worker bonuses was sent to Senate President Robert Stivers and House Speaker David Osborne, both Republicans, and to the chamber's top-ranking Democrats, Senator Morgan McGarvey and Representative Joni Jenkins. Democratic lawmakers agreed to collaborate with the governor, but House Speaker David Osborne and Senate President Robert Stivers said they would welcome reviewing the proposal through the legislature's regular policymaking process. The House majority will continue to approach this policy discussion as we do every piece of legislation we pass, by collaborating with stakeholders and engaging with the executive branch, David Osborne said in a separate statement. We look forward to the administration's input, but would advise that any proposals focusing on bolstering the workforce, getting Kentuckians back to work, and removing the barriers that stand in the way of our economy moving forward. On a personal note, for several years I have attended numerous legislative hearings and have spoken on behalf of pension reform and other matters. From my perspective, it seems that prior to speaking, you already know the outcome. The Republican-controlled legislature has proven repeatedly that they make the decision, and it does not matter what the people think or the governor proposes. They know better, and they will make the ultimate decision. Additionally, it's my belief that the leadership determines what will happen, and really the other members of the legislature are merely figureheads. Now the Republican leadership owns this process. It is their ball, their court, and they will make decisions without input from the governor or all of the people. One thing is for certain, Republican legislators will be inundated by groups and their lobbyists. In the forefront, I believe, The Kentucky Chamber of Commerce will be right there, and other organizations that seek to serve a certain segment of society as opposed to the good of the people. And that's my report on this story. You guys have any comments?
I do. It is staggering, the hypocrisy. The both, as he said, the both sides of their mouths, right? The idea that they complained up and down about this governor not including them and not consulting with them, and then when he's like very clearly looking to, and the way he structured it was like clearly they were going to have the biggest voice in the conversation. 4-2, I think, 4 Republicans to 2 Democrats. Like, he was acknowledging the reality of their their kind of upper hand in the legislature. So it was just so gross to see them just like totally stiff arm the governor who's like trying to do the right thing for our state and the right thing for essential workers. I also love the number, that $400 million, like, the fact that that matches what we were spending to bring that Ford battery plant, the amount of money that we're providing for those Ford battery plants. I thought that was really, appropriate, right? Like, yeah, we clearly need these huge corporate investments and we're going to match some resources to help bring them here. But what we really also want to do is help the workers, the folks who've been on the front lines. And so, I hope that money, gets allocated in a way that is equitable to people's commitment and to people's sacrifices during this pandemic. I'm nervous now that the Republicans are just going to like, run it as some sort of giveaway to big business, because that's what they seem to like to give our tax dollars to, is big business. What about you, Kimberly?
Actually, Aaron, you and Doug Price said everything that needed to be said. I'm going to pass on a comment on this because you don't want to get me started, but you said everything that I wanted to say.
Nice. Well, hey, so we're going to move on to story number 2, which we are covering. Thankfully, there are some things the governor can do without the legislature. And I got news this week that the governor has awarded $16.5 million for clean drinking water projects in our state. So important infrastructure improvements in Henry County, Jefferson County, Oldham County, and Trimble County. And this is part of, these are federal resources largely. There's some state money that's been put in there. This is part of the Better Kentucky plan that the governor has allocated these federal resources with some state resources too. And if you'll see there, wild, some of these projects are incredibly expensive. Some are a little more modest, but they all help provide clean drinking water and better sewage to communities in Kentucky. And that's one of the 3 priorities, right? So this Better Kentucky plan will prioritize, I think, $200 million for water, $250 million. I would say $200 million for school, $250 million for sewage and water, $600 million for broadband connectivity across Kentucky. So, we know Kentucky struggles with water infrastructure failures. We've had Nina and Mickey McCoy on from Martin County, I think, a couple of times to detail kind of how horrible, how unsafe their water is due to kind of poor management and the coal impacts to those communities. So there's a real need here. And I think that, $200 million is probably, dare I say, a drop in the bucket of what needs to be done. Hopefully we'll see additional resources coming to communities as well. But it's, certainly a good start, and it's more than these water systems have seen really in decades, right? This is a very big federal commitment from the American Rescue Plan, but there is more money on the horizon, right? So if Congress can get their act together and pass the infrastructure plan and the Build Back Better bill, these kind of 2 tracks, we will see significant increases in resources coming for these types of projects. But, this is a start for sure. And of course, before anyone takes credit for these federal resources, every single Republican voted against that plan, right? So the American Rescue Plan had no support from any Republican. And if you look at the infrastructure plan, there was some bipartisan support there. So we'll give them a little bit of credit in the Senate side of getting across the filibuster or not filibustering. But then we'll see what happens with Build Back. That's the big news right now, is that we don't know what's happening with the Build Back Better bill. But that means a lot of resources for Kentucky too. So people should keep their eyes open for that one. But yeah, anyone want to weigh in on this modest investment in clean water for our state?
I'll jump in. I just have to say something. You mentioned that no Republicans voted for it.
Right.
I guarantee you that if there is any opportunity for Mitch McConnell to come to Kentucky and to hand out a check or say he's handing out a check and what a great job that he's doing for Kentuckians, then Mitch will be there because, that's our Mitch. And one other thought I have, you mentioned Martin County. Situation there is dire with their water supply, and I'm hopeful that perhaps Martin County can receive some funds to help them, attack the tremendous problem they have with coal companies damaging the water supply and then outdated equipment and piping and all that stuff, because they sure could use the money.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, as those dollars queue up, I think, assuming, which I probably shouldn't assume anything on this one, but if the bills get passed, that 2-track approach works, we'll definitely be checking back in with our friends in Martin County to see if improvements are happening, because that's the challenge, I think, is that this is the American Rescue Plan dollars. Great that they showed up, really important stuff, but the Build Back Better agenda is far more aggressive and and more in keeping with the needs, right? Because we as a nation have not invested in ourselves. We have just allowed that corporate tax rate to just get cut down and down and down, and the amount of resources we've been spending on investing in our nation have just plummeted precipitously. It's like the Affordable Care Act was one thing, but that was a small drop in the bucket in terms of healthcare. This could be even bigger if it happens, and if Kristen Sinema goes along with and Joe Manchin goes along with a few things. But why is it so important that you get every single Democrat? Well, that's because every single Republican is voting against it. Right. And I know that people get a little bit frustrated to, keep talking about Kristen Sinema or Joe Manchin, but that's because there's not a single, Mitch will not let a single Republican break ranks on that package, even if it's the right thing to do.
Can I just break in for one moment, Aaron? Number one, here in Jefferson County, we were always known for having the best and cleanest water in the entire country. So what happened with that? Number two, did Mitch McConnell tell Kristen Sinema to wear that blue jean vest as she was presiding that day? Did you all see that? Even I have to say, sometimes I'm a little casual, right? But I mean, my goodness, girl, get some clothes. What's up?
Kristen Sinema's wardrobe.
What was that?
It's fraught. It's fraught for me as a white male to comment on Kristen Sinema's wardrobe. But I will say the number one comment I think that she's making is "look at me." That is 100%. I think what she's trying to get people to do.
Well, I didn't know if she was a senator or if she was getting ready to go on stage being in a band. Actually, I didn't know which one it was. Well, I'm going to say, as a Black female, that was very unprofessional as a senator, period. Done.
Doug, wardrobe comments?
I can't argue about that. I will say, I'm certain all of you all saw a vote. I don't remember what the vote was, but she pranced forward and she walked out in front of everybody, and she didn't say yay or nay. She just said with a little curtsy.
Yeah, that was the $15 an hour minimum wage, right? So that was her effort to, I think, evoke her professed idol, the maverick John McCain, who famously turned down Trump's efforts to overturn the Affordable Care Act with the thumbs down. But for whatever reason, it just didn't strike me as nearly as annoying when he did it. Because, you know, I wanted to see the American, the Obamacare, remain in place. And I really actually wanted to see that $15 an hour minimum wage. So obviously I was predisposed to not like her move, but it did seem a little, I think I've heard it said, it seemed less like a thumb and more like a middle finger.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
took the words right out of my brain.
I'm going to throw it to you, Kimberly. You've got the news in under 2, maybe 3 minutes.
No, I changed it on here. See,
I can't see that.
It says news in 3 minutes or left.
Well, when I printed out the run of show, it said 2 minutes or less. So, we'll see what happens.
I don't know. I feel like singing that Bobby Brown song, My Prerogative. I don't know. But anyway, get into the news. Clock me this time, Aaron. Clock me, Doug Price, please. The Lieutenant Governor, she stepped down as the Cabinet Secretary for Education and Workforce Development, which I couldn't really understand that in the beginning, but okay. She stepped down at this particular time and to focus exclusively on her role as the Lieutenant Governor. Okay, with the priority of further expanding job opportunities for Kentuckians as the Commonwealth's economy gains even more momentum. So speaking of leaving jobs right now, how about this? Kentucky is the leading in the nation. We are leading in the nation, you guys, okay, in folks quitting their job. Like Kentucky is like the really big resignation, okay? I don't know what's going on in Kentucky, but how about this? In August, 84,000 people quit their jobs, and the quit rate was like 4.5% as of August, but it got a bump of a 1.4% increase from the month prior, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Oh, my favorite from Hee Haw. How about Dolly Parton? Dolly Parton's doing something great for Kentucky. Get your pens and your paper ready, because when I come on, I always got something for you to write down. Write down this first. Imagination Library.com/Kentucky. I'm going to tell you why. Because Dolly Parton has committed herself to giving your child, grandchild, great-grandchild, your neighbors, nieces, nephews, whomever, a free book each month until the time they are 5 years old. So check out that website to learn more about it and make sure that it's in your area, okay? Also, Kentucky governor, that would be Mr. Andy Scheer. He's saying that, yes, you could get some of your funeral expenses paid if you happen to have passed on with COVID after January the 20th. Yes. Altogether, so many people have applied already. About $18 million has gone into that so far. And that money per se is coming right now from, let me look at my notes. It's coming right now so far through the great and wonderful disaster assistance. So if you'd like to know more information about that, go to disasterassistance.gov. Once again, that's disasterassistance.gov. And you can find out a little bit more about that there. The next story I have coming up really quick is a potential Mitch McConnell rival finally is cleared after years of the Republicans' complaints. Do you have any idea who that individual may be? I'll give you 1 second to guess. Okay, you're probably wrong. It's Matt Jones. Yes, Matt Jones, who's the host of the popular talk show called Kentucky Sports Radio, was temporarily taken off the air because he was thinking of running against Mitch McConnell. So all of Mitch McConnell and his cronies got together and said, hey, iHeartMedia is kind of like giving you this soft approach of having more exposure for your supposedly maybe going to possible candidacy. So also I like to also put into this as well. The Department of Justice is nowhere near finished investigating the Louisville Metro government, or the Louisville Metro Police Department, which is the police department that has accredited fame, and it's kind of bad. So I'm going to put a thumbs down like Krista because of the Breonna Taylor execution, as I would call it. But they're saying that to make these necessary changes, that Jefferson County would have to come up with about $8 million when the mayor is trying to get more money for Louisville Metro Police officers. So that's my news in 3 or under. Back to you, Aaron.
Or 4 minutes and 34 seconds.
No, you didn't. You just tacking on. I could go with the 30-something seconds. See, you all got together. You were texting each other. I know what you and Doug were doing. I know.
We were texting each other. Look, he came up with the same number I came up with. We were both
But you know
independently
what?
verified that you blew
I
past
bet
3 minutes.
I gave you all kinds of information that's going on.
I'm not
in my little
arguing
4 minutes and 32 seconds.
I'm not arguing the value of
I'm
the information.
just saying. I'm just saying
that you said 3. You wanted 3 minutes. I was saying 2. Clearly, it needs to be under 5 minutes, I guess.
Aaron,
yes.
let me just say this: we could get gangsta, or we could have this cordial. How you want to go about this?
I don't want to get gangsta.
I'm gonna see you Sunday. I love you, Dougie Price. My other brother over there. Oh no.
All I did, Kimberly Cecil Jones, was to do what you said. You said tape me. I timed you. And
I'm just gonna say, if somebody had let me take out another story, but I'm not getting ready to say anything. We got a great guest tonight, and I'm so excited to move forward.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm excited about our guest as well. So we're about to hear from Matt Alley, who's the blue collar writer, longtime labor, good troublemaker. But first, if you like what you hear on Kernels of Truth, please consider supporting our efforts with a bit of a financial investment. It doesn't have to be big. We've got a big goal. We've got a goal of raising $1,500 for our current organizing projects, which you can come out and hear about on Sunday. But we are, we're not as close as we'd like to be. So if you want to make a donation, help us turn Kentucky purple. Folks, we have just 377 days until we've got a chance to fire Rand Paul and celebrate at his retirement party. So if you want to help make that possible, make a donation right now. Hit us up on ActBlue. It's secure, it's safe, and if you've got one of these ActBlue accounts, it's super quick and easy. So at any rate, we're going to move on now to our interview with Matt Alley, because I'll be honest, like right now is the time to be talking about labor. In fact, we bumped a guest to make sure that we could have a conversation about labor this week during what they are calling STRIKE-tober. Matt, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing great, and it's a pleasure to be back. How are you all doing tonight?
Things are a little bit crazy here. I'll be honest. It feels like we're on the knife's edge of having our own labor disputes. I'll be honest. And I don't want to claim the management role. That's for sure. No one likes management. All right, so I know that every time I open up a newspaper or fire up a browser, it seems like there's a new labor story front and center, right? So we've got so John Deere is happening. We've had Heaven Hill going on for a while. Obviously, when you were here last, there was we're talking about an Alabama coal strike. There was there's news about Amazon. Maybe things happening in Amazon. I think a new attempt there. What is going on? Like, what is up with the labor movement? Why is so much happening right now?
I have been waiting 20 years for this moment. I believe we finally have workers saying, we don't have to put up with this. I believe the pandemic slowed people down enough to say, I'm not getting paid enough. I have to put up with too much. There's change in the air, and I love it was a good revolution. Right now, I was looking at stats today, 57,800, according to the Department of Labor, have been on strike this year alone. there is definitely change going on, and I love it. As a union organizer, a guy that's second generation union, this is the moment where I hope that American workers take back their rights and be compensated, paid well for what their labor they exchange for.
Yeah, I hear you. I think, and a story that we touched on earlier, that Kimberly's quick rundown, under 5 minutes, was the fact that people are leaving the workforce, right? So people are like quitting. People are like, you know what? I'm not going to deal with it. I doubt they're leaving great jobs, right? They're leaving
Right.
jobs that just were not worth it to them. And I think that sense of what a worker is worth, the conversation around Fight for 15, more and more people get that, like, yeah, I'm not gonna deal with a crappy job that leaves me on some poverty treadmill, but in fact I'm worth being compensated and with some benefits so I can live a quality life, and I'm here for that. But can you give us a quick rundown on some of these stories? Like, where are we at? What's going on with Heaven Hill? That's of course the closest to home fight, it seems like, right now.
Well, I was there on Saturday for about 5.5 hours because the call went out while at the rank and file were going to go in and listen to the contract and vote on it. They were needing people out there to show solidarity, and I was there with members of our friends at AFT 120. It was Kentucky United, and other unions. The Louisville Labor Council was strong there that day. And they accepted the contract. I don't know the details about it, but it's democratic, and if that's what they wanted, then they got what they voted for.
That's great. So they're done. So I can resume drinking Heaven Hill bourbon or one of their many brands if I was so inclined.
As far as I know, yes, because it was the most recent news that I have read. Things are still going on. I don't want to forget about our brothers and sisters in UMWA in Alabama, 7 months on strike. I mean, it's hard to process. And you're not earning your wages. Strike funds are limited. So those people are warriors in my book. Kellogg's, I read, is going to be negotiating again next week. John Deere, there was a death today. It was a traffic accident, it's being called. That occurred on one of their strike lines. So my heart goes out to them and their union family and the family of those affected. I was reading also that in California, Kaiser, 50,000 possible employees might be going on strike. That is the most recent news from the Washington Post about it. So it is Strike-tober. It could be strike November, December. And in 1952, we had 2.7 million on strike. That's been the record so far. So who knows? We might reach it.
Wow. Yeah. And so I saw that brief blurb about somebody dying at the John Deere strike. And that is just horrible news. It seems like, again, we're in this tribal moment. Not that like labor unions have ever been, universally beloved, right? They've always been troublemakers. They've always been fighting for, a group of people, which again, why do you fight for it? Because you have to. It's not like if they just gave it to you, you would take it, but you have to fight for it. But I did think, that was, you got to imagine there's something happened, right? That it wasn't just an accident, but maybe it was. I don't know. I do think that Heaven Hill story was relatively instructive, right? The driver heading into Heaven Hill who decided to make a threatening gesture at the strikers and then ended up overturning his tanker truck.
Yes.
That was quite possibly my favorite story of the Strike-tober, was that instant karma moment. So I think we've got a few other folks queued up to ask you questions. I know that Doug has one because he's written it down. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it to Doug,
Okay.
and then we'll ask Kimberly if she's got something to ask Matt after that.
Sure. Matt, thanks so much for being here. In preparation, I watched a video on your Facebook page, Matt Alley, blue collar writer, about union organizing efforts taking place in other states involving Dollar General. Are there any plans to start this process in Kentucky? It seems like there is a Dollar General store on just about every corner, and I can imagine it had to be very tough with so many locations scattered across a wide area to try to unionize. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, it always comes down to, do the workers want to contact a union to organize? That is always the key. I mean, this thing about us going out as unions and targeting, yeah, there has been corporate campaigns in the past, but it comes down to, if the workers don't want it, then you're wasting union members' dues money, and that's not what we do. So if workers at a location, which is always by location, in most cases, if they wanted to organize, they would have to be contacting a local union that deals in retail. I would be the best bet. And I've heard nothing but, you run into franchising and labor laws and things like that. I would love to see every Dollar General be unionized. And for the jobs that are in Kentucky, and you are correct, they all feel like they're every 20 miles. And that would be a great workforce. But I've heard nothing. I wish someone would get something like that started. Retail needs more unions.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. Retail is, retail is a tough gig, right? And it shouldn't be. They don't treat you well in that industry, from all reports I've heard. So it seems like that's a place that could absolutely use some representation and some negotiation. Kimberly, do you have a question for Matt?
Yes, I do. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you again. You all were talking about retail. I used to be a salaried executive sales manager for Macy's in retail. I currently have my son who's a stylist and works in the men's department. Why is it that there are employees at other establishments that are, during these economic times, they're getting paid more money than what a big box retailer like Macy's is paying? And how could someone actually start a union? I know that when I was in management for Macy's, I remember us receiving paperwork about if you knew anything about the union, let HR know. If you heard anything on the floors, that type of deal. Wouldn't that be intimidation, perhaps, to the hourly employees if they wanted to unionize, which I think right now they should? And my second question, Matt, is also, with all of this chain supply situation going on and all across the country, and especially the great resignation is happening right here in Kentucky, when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to truck drivers, what can the union do about that? So those are my two-part question, I'd say.
Well, first, let's you are right about intimidation, but the anti-union tactics are, they're kind of stacked against us within labor law. The things are that you have the right to form a union, but you're never going to hear that from your employer. They naturally don't want one. Even though that you could go to some of the most successful businesses like UPS, and they know things work better if you have everyone there that is trained professionals, the very best they can be, and take pride in their work. You have a more productive workforce. And look at everything else from television to movies to logistics. They're usually the best are unionized, and that says a lot about unions in the workforce and people that are that will make a commitment to the said job and want to make a lifetime job out of it until they retire. Retail has always been one of those things, just kind of like the restaurant industry, where they tried to rely on such a turnover from employees that they would never stick around because the wages were always kept low. They was always going to be moving on to something else. And then one day, post NAFTA, there wasn't that many other jobs to keep going and evolving up. It was a ladder too. And then suddenly, so many people were having to work retail for the rest of their lives, and nobody really wanted to see or admit that was coming, despite some of the screaming bloody murder back in the 90s when NAFTA happened. And the jobs were being shipped over overseas in manufacturing and whatnot. what's going on with the ports right now is being resolved as best it can. There's a lot of new labor changes going on in California that are being implemented that have been wonderful to help workers, especially the ports. It was ports of LA. There has been a lot of wage theft that has went on out there, and these changes are very welcome. Specifically, this also shows what happens when you have a governor who is pro-worker and can get things done, and it can benefit workers, 99.9% of the in the world. So, and would you care to repeat your last part about the questions about the second part to the question?
Oh, sure. And then you made me have another one too.
Okay.
Because Macy's in New York is union.
Right.
The store in New York is union. So can unions just have, I guess they're doing it, but I just wonder, could the Macy's in Louisville just be unionized, right? Instead of the one in Lexington. And then my second question was, what can these businesses do with the union with the chain supply problem and the lack of the workforce, people, leaving left and right from the, truckers and manufacturing, things like that?
Well, there is a very serious shortage right now of truck drivers. They went to the independent contractor model since somewhere in the 90s, and that has produced a very major problem. As far as the unions can be working with those who deal in logistics who are unionized, that's the key, about hiring more workers. It still comes down to the employer in every case. Now, and that also answers your question about the Macy's thing. It's always going to come down to the workers working at the said store or said wherever that are going to have to make the choice that they want to unionize. And when that happens, we're always going to be here to be very happy to help them in the process.
That makes sense. Thanks, Matt.
Thank
So
you.
again, one question I've got. So obviously the Biden administration far more friendly to union concerns. Where are we at with things like the PRO Act, or what's the status of the NLRB? I know that the NLRB had basically been just defanged completely under Trump. I think they didn't have enough appointees to even move forward on certain things because they just tried to weaken it to inability to do anything. Where are we at from a federal perspective right now, Matt?
Well, right now it is heaven pretty much to have. It was our union brother Mark T. Walsh in as the NLRB secretary. He's a union man, comes second generation union family, and he's very pro union and pro worker. Finally, we have someone that was there fighting for workers who was in charge. And you're right. The NLRB was defanged tremendously under the Trump administration because everything was just, it was very pro-corporation, pro-company. I'm seeing a lot of interesting little notes and changes going on where there's been a lot of wins for us as workers. And I just see it continuing. Now, you said about the PRO Act and other things like that. We're still stuck at where we have the same support for it. But just as mainly, it was the Democrats. And but get anything to move forward, it's the same stalemate. So.
Right. So the same concerns we've run into with Mitch, wielding that filibuster at every turn for anything that has a progressive outcome, or not even a progressive outcome, right? Like the Freedom to Vote Act. Don't people like freedom? Don't people like voting? Why can't this Manchin compromise legislation, get moving? It's because Mitch, wields an iron fist in terms of that, that the Republican are in lockstep in stopping the Biden administration. And so they're going to use that filibuster on anything that the Biden administration would point to as a sign of success or victory. So I know that that PRO Act is like, it's got the target right there on it in terms of things they're not going to be able to pass on a straight up and down vote. So
Right.
again, that gets back to like if we want action out of this, these kind of waning days, right? So like midterms, another year, then it's 2 years later, and that's kind of the end of the Biden administration. Who knows what happens at midterms? Although history being a guide, it's not terribly hopeful for the party in power, especially with such narrow majorities, in the Senate, not even really a majority. So if you want to get anything done, now is the time. We have a year to get anything done
Exactly.
that matters, but that means reforming the filibuster, and that means getting folks like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema on board. I'm so tired of hearing those names, but it all really does come down to them because they're the holdouts on a whole set of issues. But yeah, sorry to hear that the PRO Act is also one of those issues that gets held up by just the dynamics and this this archaic filibuster that keeps majorities from being able to pass what they want to pass. All right. So, any final thoughts you want to leave our viewers with, Matt, about where labor is and what we should be doing to support the labor movement right now?
I would first say just keep track of what's going on with STRIKE-tober, because this is history in the making. As far as supporting labor unions and your fellow workers, stay on top of the news, know what's going on, and also watch for our boycotts. If you really want to help, you got to hit those companies in. It was the pocketbook, because that's where they start listening at. And also just understand that labor history is important, and we are going to keep repeating this until people learn this is an ongoing battle, and it always will be. So my best advice is, keep your head on a swivel, pay attention to what's going on, and know that if there is something that affects one worker, it's going to affect you. Because if they can get away with one thing, they are going to try it somewhere else. Because here's the thing: the corporations and corporate America, and they hate unions, but they have their own little unions themselves there, and in which they share ideas and they see what works, and it's all about greed. And this is a battle that, never forget, you have the power as workers. You have it. These companies don't move without you. They need you more than you need them. Never forget that.
That's awesome. That's good advice for sure. One question you had mentioned, kind of keeping an eye on, the different strikes and the different, who's calling for a boycott. So do you know, is the Kellogg strike, is that one where we need to give up our Frosted Flakes for now?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So that you've heard
Definitely.
it, folks. But the Oreos are back on the menu, right? We can get the Oreos again because they've settled it at Nabisco, right?
Well, yes, but just also make sure to look to see where it's made. Okay, if you can buy, it was American made and not the ones made in it was in Mexico. That does a lot to help out our American workforce that still works for them.
Gotcha. All right. So look at your labels, folks. Kellogg's. Find some other breakfast cereals, folks, right now, to support, show some solidarity for the folks working hard there. John Deere, is that also a boycott?
For right now, yes.
All right, so off on that big purchase until they get their act together there for sure. So at any rate, I want to just say thanks again, Matt, for giving us the kind of the lowdown on the labor movement and this moment that they are having. And we hope it continues, and hope that workers continue to, fight for better conditions, better pay, and, better hours, which, I think I was really glad to hear. I think Kevin Hill did such a great job telling the story, right? And they had such good kind of like, hey, look, we want to have our weekends. They say they're a family company and they treat us like family. Well, you know what? Family doesn't work on weekends. Family gets weekends with their family. And I just thought it was so easy to understand kind of what they were fighting for there. And it really did. It makes you think, right? Like, oh yeah, everyone does deserve a weekend. Exactly. The labor union fought for that weekend. We should all have it. We should all appreciate it. That labor communication stuff is so critical. And thank you for showing up when we needed to sort it out for us, Matt.
My pleasure.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to move on now to our call to action and events calendar, which Dougie Fresh is going to walk us through today.
Yes, thank you very much. We have a special election update. May Shuremek, who is running for the 89th district in Jackson County and parts of Madison and Laurel County, she needs the Get Out to Vote help, and you can do it. If you're interested in phone banking or helping with lit drops, just contact our campaign. You can send an email to Harry Niak, her field director at harryjniak@gmail.com, or you can head to her Facebook page or website to volunteer. Prayer mats. As you know, redistricting is going on these days, or at least they're talking about it. The League of Women Voters is helping inform the redistricting process by a transparent electoral district mapping project and a series of virtual town halls to explain their maps and the redistricting process. The next one comes up on Tuesday, November 2nd. It's in Northern Kentucky, 6:30 to 8 p.m., and it's also virtual. For form registration, information, and updates, visit their website at lwvky.org, or there's an email of info@lwvky.org. And you need to know about the Shiloh Shindig. Come to our party to turn Kentucky purple. You are invited to the Progress Kentucky Shiloh Shindig, sponsored by Individual. We want to get the team together and share plans and strategize to retire Rand in 2022. Join us. We'll provide some food and political fun with a great crew. Promise you'll have fun. Sunday, October 31st, noon to 3 p.m. at Lexington's Shiloh Park, over by the mall, shelter number 1. Now, that's all of our announcements. I'll turn it over to Kimberly for our close.
I cannot wait, because in my head, I'm hearing that song by Kool and the Gang. You all remember that song called Celebrate Good Times? Come on. We could do the electric slide and whatever else they do, right? So we're looking forward to seeing you on Sunday, okay? It will not be a trick. You will have a treat, okay, if you see us on Sunday. So next week on the Kernels of Truth, I'm very excited to say that we're going to talk about petrochemicals. Yes, build out that is planned and underway in the Ohio River Valley, and how people can help in the efforts to stop new climate and air pollution projects from threatening our air, water, and future. We will be joined by the Alice Melendez from Kentucky Extinction Rebellion and hear about their efforts. That is going to be a good show. So make sure you set your clocks, alarms, whatever, because that's going to be a good show. You need to know about that. Also, I just need to do the little disclaimer. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State, organized as a 501c4, is affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, also known as CAVE. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. If you all are wondering what that noise, can you all hear any kind of a noise in the background, Aaron? Can you all hear anything?
Yeah, what is that?
That's the alarm going off because Lamont made brownies and he jetted. Okay. We may have burnt brownies today, honey. It might be burnt brownies, okay? So some graphic materials and content were provided by Couchfire Media, okay? Couchfire Media ignites multi-camera, live stream, educational, and commercial video production content. For more information, you can contact the guys over there at couchfiremedia.com. Production this evening was by our own beautiful and wonderful Annabelle Nigel of our social media chair. Yes, she is. Thanks so much for volunteering to help get out our live stream to the people. Annabelle, you've done a excellent job. Like each week, like you get better, and like, girl, you are all that. I'm just saying, okay? And the Jones Report will be coming back very soon. I know you guys are tired of me saying that with Mike Breuer. That's because he's gallivanting all across the country in his brand new RV with his beautiful wife, Lynn, seeing all of America. So we're getting some things together. And also Miss Betsy Foster, one of my closest friends and co-host as well. We're getting things tied up, and I will have a date for you next week. How about that? Okay. And then also, we cannot go on if we do not.
Hey, wait, Kimberly. Do you need to go turn off the brownies? I mean, I'm getting nervous because I get there's only one thing that happens if you leave the burnt brownies in longer, and I think that's fire. And I don't want
it's not going to be on fire. It's
all
okay.
Right.
It's all right. You
all
know, dip it in some milk, some almond milk. I didn't need that many anyway. I look like I've had too many brownies over the pandemic, you know? So, hey, let it be what it is. But, you know, most importantly, I want to say thank you to Nate for the songs that he always creates for us. That song you guys hear is from Nate Orshan, one of the co-hosts that you see from time to time on here. And you can listen to more of his music. I suggest that you do. He's very talented. Extremely talented. And you can go to NATO Songs, that's NATO songs.com. Okay. Now, if you miss our weekly live stream, which I don't know why you would, but in case you just did something having to come up like some brownies in the oven, some stuff like that, then you know what? You can always catch us on Facebook. Don't worry. Do not be alarmed. You can see us. Okay. And you can see the source links right there on Facebook. Or we do audio podcast, and it's available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. And so, like I say every week, do something nice for somebody, okay? Today has been a great day. It's been, you know, the wonderful host that we have, Aaron Viles, Mr. Dougie Fresh, as we affectionately call him, Doug Price, with all of the great information he has. Annabelle, we can't say enough about her, and especially our friend and honorary Colonel of Truth, Mr. Matt Alley, who comes on and tells us all about what's going on with the unions. Now, another alarm is going off. Okay, so until next week, okay, and I'll let you know how the brownies were. They're those Godiva chocolate brownies or something. So I'm going to rush and get that, but we'll see you right here next week, same time, same bat channel. Make sure you get and see us next week and do something nice for somebody. We love you. Bye.